Jake Claver just came out with a new clip, and what he's saying is pretty mind-blowing. Basically, the institutional demand for XRP is so massive right now that there's just not enough supply to go around. I want to unpack this with you. But wait, there's more happening today. Bitwise has been busy, and we've got a bunch of updates to cover there. Then you've got 21 Shares working behind the scenes to get their spot XRP ETF off the ground. We're also hearing some interesting stuff coming out of Thunes, Ripple, and the broader XRP ecosystem. On top of all that, the US regulatory landscape is heating up. The Bitcoin for America Act is actually making progress now. But here's the million-dollar question. Are we looking at something that's going to branch out into other cryptocurrencies, or is Bitcoin going to be the only one getting the spotlight here? We're going to get into everything. Let's listen to this.
Is it a make or break situation from a OTC standpoint? Because we know there's about 30 billion. If you include the OTC desk, $30 billion in value. Now, to some people, it sounds like a huge number. To those in the know like yourself, it's a small number. And so with these ETFs, with the Clarity Act, with this event that you're talking about, what does it mean for the XRP price? Why do you get to the arbitrary number of 3 digits or 4 digits? How do you get to these numbers?
Demand, right? So it's just a math equation. If you weren't going to settle the back into the stock market, you would need enough liquidity to be able to do that. And I believe that's where they're going to push it to in order to be able to facilitate that. So that's $5 or $6 trillion a day in settlement. You're also going to have the FX market slammed in Japan, which SBI is a large contributor there. And we know that they're a fan of Ripple and R3 and XRP. Yoshitaka Kitao has touted XRP multiple times as his favorite asset. So if you needed a liquidity buffer for the FX market, for all of those transfers swapping back to yen, that's another demand point that they're going to be utilizing the asset for. You've got all these ETFs launching at the same time. We've already seen the largest inflows that we've ever seen on ETFs for spot products in crypto. The first 4 or 5 days here that we've had, just a couple ETFs for XRP open and trading. That's already eating into the OTC desk. Okay. Now there's OTC and dark pools. So
OTC, let me break that down real quick. Over-the-counter trading is basically where huge crypto deals happen behind closed doors, away from the public exchanges. Why? To keep prices from going nuts. Picture this scenario. You've got $1 billion in Bitcoin you need to sell. You can't just throw that onto Coinbase or Binance because you'd absolutely demolish the price. That's where these dark pools come in. These over-the-counter trading desks that handle enormous transactions without creating chaos in the market. Here's where it gets interesting. Jake's pointing out that some of these OTC desks are literally running dry on XRP. They can't keep up. And zoom out for a second. We're watching institutions across the entire planet racing toward digital assets and tokenization. So the real question becomes, what asset can actually handle this kind of global demand? Which company built the infrastructure massive enough to power all of it? Because we're not talking about one country here. The UK's in, Japan's in, Australia, the Middle East, Africa, Canada, North America, South America, you name it. Ripple's already wired into every single one of these regions and payment corridors. That network effect, that's what I believe is about to light a fire under everything we're seeing. Take a listen to this part.
That's going to be people's argument. Well, we haven't seen the price move. It's actually going down. Well, you are correct because they're buying over the counter and they're buying out of the dark pools. But once those are depleted, they will have to go to the exchanges. And if there's implications for Tether and Bitcoin at the same time and the exchanges need XRP, you have the Shane Ellis theory also play out at the same time where they start using XRP in that capacity. So that everybody needs it all at the exact same time and there's not enough to go around. And that's the situation where we see a huge move up in price that people just, I don't think they're ready for.
Okay, guys, we've been preparing for this moment, haven't we? Sure, there might be some people out in the world who have zero clue about XRP. Yeah, they're definitely caught off guard. But for those of us in the know, this has been a long time coming, my friends. All right, let's check out what's happening. Zoff Crypto drops this update. Market update on Bitwise XRP ETF. This is when it was only 3 hours left. You have about $22 million in trading volume. Now that's some serious action right there. But wait, it gets even more interesting. Stephen McClurg, the big boss at Canary Capital, comes out and says, "Huge congratulations to our friends at Bitwise on their XRP ETF today. We are showing Wall Street that you don't have to be BlackRock to launch the top 5 ETFs of 2025. We are rooting for you to get in this one into the top 5 too, as long as you don't knock us out the first." And from what we're seeing, that's not going to be an issue. Then 21 Shares just filed their XRP spot ETF form 8-A. Now listen, once this particular form starts making the rounds, you know exactly what that means. All right, so buckle up because this thing is literally on the launch pad right now. The hype train has left the station and it's picking up speed. Everyone in the game is throwing their weight behind these products. We're reaching that boiling point, people, and I've got some fresh data to share with you. Canary's XRP ETF is 360 times larger than its Sol ETF. Let that sink in for a second. What we're seeing here is XRP absolutely dominating the demand charts compared to Solana, at least when we're talking about Canary's offerings. The numbers don't lie. 360 times bigger. The new holdings data shows Canary Fund's XRP to have sitting at 132 million XRP, which translates to around 300 million in cold hard cash. Meanwhile, Sol is at 577,000, under 1 million. So if you're riding with the Solana ecosystem, what's going through your head right now? I want to know your take on this. Over here, we've got Wrath of Kahneman bringing the goods. Ripple partner Thunes has partnered with the first Abu Dhabi bank to provide international payments via Thunes Direct Global Network, which integrates Ripple among other rails in 2017. Fab, then NBAD, went live with Xcurrent. Some interesting quotes. Let me paint the full picture of what's going down here. Thunes is utilizing Ripple's digital asset infrastructure, specifically integrating Ripple payments with Direct Global Network, supporting real-time, low-cost payments with local currency conversions across 90-plus markets, many of which are in the regions. They have less developed banking infrastructure. Here's where it gets spicy. Swift looked at these underserved regions and basically waved the white flag. They cherry-picked the profitable markets, set up shop there, and told everyone else, tough luck. End of story. That's the reason families are bleeding 10, 15, even 20% every time they wire money across borders. It's borderline criminal. Ripple's infrastructure flips the script completely. We're talking worldwide payment solutions that actually work for every corner of the globe, not just the VIP section Swift decided to service. This integration leverages XRP as settlement asset for cross-border payments, offering institutions 3 to 5 second settlement with up to 40% cost reductions. Ripple's partnership with Thunes is over $70 billion in cross-border payments in XRP via 2025. Now I'm pivoting to the regulatory front because things are absolutely cooking right now, and you can't afford to miss what's brewing. Major developments are stacking up as we speak. Quick pause. If this content is hitting for you, show some love with a like, throw your perspective in the comments section, and pass this along to your network. Time to roll the tape on Caroline Pham. She's calling the shots over at the CFTC these days. Take a listen.
Prohibited banks from engaging in digital asset activities without getting a letter of non-objection from the bank regulators. The infamous SAB 121, which I think the SEC forgot that banks are public companies and that banks custody things. So, clearly getting that rescinded by acting chairman Uyeda on the second day, I think, in office was huge. So banks can do these activities. Of course, JP Morgan has been very active in the digital asset space, as has BNY, as has Citi and all the other banks. It's been quiet. Now I think you're going to be able to see them really accelerate. So all of these projects that everybody's been working on since 2016, now we're going to start seeing more deployment, more volume, and so on and so forth. And a lot of it's been done, frankly, through portfolio companies and strategic equity investments. And so you'll see that deployment. But it's really the bank regulators and making sure, again, that the bank regulators are comfortable with the banks, with their risk governance frameworks, and then a lot's going to start to happen.
So here's where things get spicy. We're about to see some massive movement, and I mean massive. Think about it. The people behind this haven't been sitting around twiddling their thumbs. They've been deep in the trenches, putting everything together, just stuck in this weird holding pattern while all the bureaucratic red tape and regulatory hoops slowly sort themselves out. But that wait is basically over. All those pieces everyone needed? Yeah, they're finally lined up. Regulations are basically at our doorstep right now. The second everything gets the official stamp, this whole operation is going to go absolutely bonkers. We're talking 0 to 100 real quick. And then you've got Representative Warren Davidson jumping into the ring with the Bitcoin for America Act. Now, I've definitely got opinions on this that I want to get into, but hang tight for a second. Let me first walk you through what's actually going down so we're all speaking the same language here. Listen to this.
Congressman Warren Davidson is introducing a new bill to codify Trump's executive order for a U.S. Bitcoin reserve. Congressman Davidson joins me now. Congressman, a series of questions here. Number one, what is a Bitcoin reserve? What does it do? And how do you build it?
Well, first of all, the president created a strategic reserve of Bitcoin in part because the United States government didn't have like a single custodian. You had every agency in the government that might have had an asset, seized an asset, or anything else, any kind of digital asset, they didn't have custody of it. So they were losing track of the private keys. So essentially, when you lose your keys, it's like losing a pile of cash.
Yeah.
So they created an organized way and put it under Treasury to say, hey, we're going to have a single custodian for all of the Bitcoin, kind of like Fort Knox for crypto. Right? Okay. And then they said, well, not all crypto is created equally. Bitcoin we want to hold on to. It's an appreciating asset over a long period of time.
So let me hit you with some real talk here. Crypto isn't this one-size-fits-all situation. And when people parade Bitcoin around like it's the answer to literally every problem, that's when I want to throw something at the wall. You know what this really is? It's billionaires writing fat checks to lobbyists, and suddenly we're all drowning in this Bitcoin maximalist propaganda. They're screaming, Bitcoin solves world hunger, or whatever, but hold on. Let's pump the brakes and actually think about what Bitcoin does. It sits there, it holds value, maybe. And here's a fun thought. What happens if someone drops a bombshell about Bitcoin's origin story, or reveals who actually created it? Poof, value gone. The big financial players out there, they're not looking at Bitcoin going, yes, this is our hero. Bitcoin doesn't run stablecoins. It doesn't handle the boring day-to-day transactions that banks and institutions actually depend on. We're completely whiffing on what supporting American innovation should actually mean. Honestly, I'm fed up with watching billionaires get even richer off this stuff. What we need to be championing is XRP, Solana, Chainlink, XLM, and every other homegrown American project instead of just handing Bitcoin holders another pile of money. Yeah, I said it. Not into it. Listen to this part.
Some of these other things, we should just sell them off and buy more Bitcoin. But they wanted to do it in a deficit neutral way. And I think a lot of people have been like, well, how else do you put money in there? And so we're introducing legislation that not only codifies that executive order, so there's a common sense way to have custody for the Bitcoin and other digital assets, but you can contribute. So when you pay your taxes, you can pay your taxes in Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is currency in that sense, and there's no capital gains. So for people that have held Bitcoin for a long time, they've experienced significant capital gains. When I first took office in 2016, Bitcoin was $500 or $600. Now, over 90,000. It's reached higher, but significant capital gain.
Everyone's out here obsessing over Bitcoin like it's the only thing that matters, while genuine American innovation is getting tossed to the side. Really grinds my gears, you know? The creator of Bitcoin is a total mystery. For all we know, it's some guy sitting in a Moscow apartment or coding from Shanghai. We're completely clueless about this. Yet here we are, dumping every ounce of attention into cheerleading for it. Wild, right? Anyway, let's pivot. The SEC commissioner just came out with fresh crypto rules. Listen to this.
You can have a token that is not itself a security, but is offered in a transaction that is a securities offering. And so thinking about how that applies, I think that's really caused Congress and us at the SEC and others to think about what kind of rules make sense here. Congress, as you said, has, or as you alluded to, has the opportunity now to write a new framework.
Sure.
And so thinking about what kind of framework makes sense, it will definitely be done in light of the cases such as Ripple and other cases.
So Commissioner Peirce, you mean the oranges in my house right now at the supermarket are not securities because of Howie?
I'm going to say they're not securities, but you could still figure out a way to
Yeah.
sell them in a transaction that is a securities transaction.
Right. Maybe I can tokenize it, packages, and say you get 10% return this year, right? all based on the packaging.
The Bitcoin for American Act, introduced Representative David Warren, is focused specifically on Bitcoin and its use of federal tax payments, along with establishing the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. The bill does not reference or include provisions for any other digital assets or currencies like XRP, Ethereum, or stablecoins. So that pretty much tells you everything you need to know. Now get a load of this. One of the fastest moving crypto bear markets ever. On October 6th, crypto hit a record 4.27 trillion market cap. Today, it is 3 trillion. The fear is real right now. United States, Japan, UK, you name it. The anxiety is spreading like wildfire globally. Everything points to us entering some kind of cool down phase. But here's the million-dollar question. Will regulation be our lifeline? What about tokenization gaining steam, stablecoins picking up traction, and these big financial players finally getting serious about crypto adoption? Can any of that turn the tide? Are we staring down the barrel of another grinding 2-year bear cycle? Or could this whole situation unfold in a completely new way? You better believe I'm staying on top of every single development for you right here on this channel. So go ahead and smash that follow. Get those bell notifications fired up. Thanks a ton for hanging out with me. See you in the next video.